What is going on, folks? It's a kind of a weird schedule, but it's Top Baits Live. Let's get it. That's right. That's our boys, Whiskey Myers, bringing a little freedom in the year. We always like to start our live stream. It seems like with some form of patriotic music, man. Whiskey Myers certainly is doing it big on Frogman. That is my favorite song of all time right there. So we started out with that. We're going to give you the best baits for Lake Fork bass fishing this weekend. By the way, spawning season, guys, it is absolutely on fire. Spring fishing is here to stay. We're killing it. We're catching big ones every day. Listen to my boys. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I would too. I would too. That's right. I would rather be fishing. That's our man, Cody Canada, Whiskey Myers, telling us he'd rather be fishing just like all of us. Big fish are happening every day, folks. I'm obviously not fishing today. But, man, it is unbelievable how good the spring bass fishing has gotten in a hurry. It was kind of like in this holding pattern. It happens kind of every year like this to some degree. We're in that holding pattern, cold weather, then boom, man, the last couple weeks it has just taken flat out off and been awesome fishing. Very consistent, very big fish, multiple ways to catch them. In fact, just this morning, while I was running errands before we did this, a guy that is a guide customer of mine, fished one or two guide trips with me a while back, but he's been a FishLife app subscriber for years. He caught a 1086 this morning using the FishLife app and sent me a message thanking me and showing me pictures. And Mr. Bassinger, man, I can't thank you enough for that, dude, and congratulations. That's obviously a special fishing time you catch one over 10 pounds. 1086 caught on the FishLife app just this morning. It's happening every day, guys. Happening every day. If you don't know what the FishLife app is or you're not sure about the validity of it, the last several professional tournaments that were fished on Lake Fork were all won on FishLife app spots. Hey, we got a Lake Palestine package. Now, I'll just about bet you a whole lot of money that whenever the heavy hitters for Bass Pro Tour goes to Lake Palestine here next week, the leaders are going to be fishing on FishLife app spots for the Lake Palestine package. So it's not just Lake Fork. We've got Lake Palestine, Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend. We've got our East Texas Power Plant Lakes, Lake of the Ponds, Ray Roberts, Texoma, Louisville, Grapevine. I'm missing some, Hubbard, Lavon. Probably missing some other lakes. As you can see, most of our area lakes around here, we have an individual package for those with a guy that's on the water several days a week, just like myself, giving you nothing but the most accurate and current information. It's updated every single month. It's the only app that has this situation where they have full-time guys like myself on each and every lake providing that information. It is a little more expensive. O.H. Ivy's on there. Yes, I forgot about O.H. Ivy. O.H. Ivy's Chase Brooks. He's a former FLW Tour guy and guides out on O.H. Ivy. He does our stuff out there. It's as real as it gets. There's nothing else like it in the world of bass fishing. And just here's another random day. 1086 caught this morning. We don't even post all the pictures and notifications that we get from guys that have success on the FishLife app, because if we did, it would just get redundant. I mean, the first year we kind of did, and it kind of got redundant. Like, it's crazy. Athens, yes, we have a package on Athens as well. Thank you guys for helping me remember. We even have one for Little Lake Hallbrook. It's only $5 a month for Lake Hallbrook, so it's a little bitty lake. But, man, it's the results that we've had off that thing, the number of people that have had their best fishing day of their life, caught more fish than they've ever caught their new personal best, caught double-digit fish. I mean, we've lost count of all these types of messages that we've gotten over the last few years, last couple, 2 or 3, I guess the third year of the FishLife app now that we've been running it. So it's just unbelievable. Go check it out. FishLife, L-Y-F-E. It's the realest thing and the best help money can buy in the sport of bass fishing. We're very proud to claim that, and we haven't heard anybody argue it because it's very true. Like, there's not another app out there like this one. Not even close. Not even close. I mean, granted, we don't cover the whole country like some other apps do, but that's because we want our information to be of the best quality. Just like if I were telling you where and how to fish on Lake Fork, we want that to be for every lake that we service. So we're not going to do every lake. We're only going to do the ones we can find the right partners on that are qualified, they're good at fishing, they're out there all the time, and are willing to give up the goods, which is hard to find in the world of bass fishing. You guys know that. So really proud of what we've done there. Proud of Mr. Bassinger, man. Super happy for him. That's an awesome fish. It really, as a fishing guide, your ultimate goal is like to put people on big fish, put people on their biggest fish of their life, their personal best. And I got to do that this week. If you guys saw the pictures on Facebook earlier, that was a personal best in the first picture from my man holding it. It was a 9.3, I think, but that was his personal best. You know, we want to do that for everybody as a fishing guide. And what the FishLife app does for me is it allows me to do that for many, many people, like hundreds, thousands of people. I get to assist them in catching their biggest bass in a small way. I mean, they still have to go execute on it and all that good stuff, but it allows me to virtually guide all the hundreds and thousands of people that I can't physically take in my boat because I can only run so many guide trips per year. So it's just a great way for me to continue doing what I love to do, which is help people catch more and bigger fish. And man, it's really effective. Really, really, it has exceeded my expectations 100x on how effective it has been in helping people catch fish. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. So check it out, FishLife, L-Y-F-E. Why? Because it's the best damn fishing app on earth. That's why. All right, top baits for Lake Fork. We need to get into that. Right before we do, I want to show you guys something, and we like to keep y'all on the cutting edge of products and baits and gear and all that stuff. We missed Tackle Talk Tuesday this week. We missed Top Baits on Thursday night. Here we are, middle of the day Friday. Man, my schedule is just crazy this time of year, guys. I'm coaching my two boys in soccer. You know, as you guys know, I went through a divorce the last couple of years, so now I'm a single parent. I mean, I have the princess, and she helps me, and she is, if y'all don't know Princess Lady, some of y'all have seen her on videos. She's here right now in the house. She's an unbelievable help to my life. It makes my life much easier, no doubt. But when you go through divorce and then the kids thing, like, if I'm being honest, I don't want to miss out on anything with them. You know, I only get half the time with them that I want, and I just don't want to miss any moments when they're here. So I try really hard to not let work interfere with my time with them. So unfortunately, that means at times I'm not going to be able to get to as much content as I used to, not going to be able to do as many live streams as I used to. And during the spring season, when I'm guiding as much as I am, filming as much as I am, and then coaching the boys in soccer and doing all their school stuff as well, man, it's just not a lot of time. So I am going to miss some, and I apologize for that. I'm going to do the best I can through this spring. I've got to come up with a new schedule, something more manageable, where I can let you guys rely on what time I'm going to be here. I'm working on that. I'm going to try and figure that out. I'm just trying to get through this spring and survive it and then reassess right now. But there's been a new product drop this week. And it's something a little special now. We talked about a Your Lake Fork Guide line of rods that's going to be coming soon. This is not that, and we're having issues on the manufacturing side just to even get our samples. So it's like everything else in the country, everything's delayed. So I have no idea when the Your Lake Fork Guide rods are going to come in. But 6th Sense did release some rods they've been working on for a long time this week. This is the Vega series of rods. Now, Lake Fork is low, so I don't know how much frogging we're necessarily going to do at Lake Fork this year, but normally we do a lot of frogging at Lake Fork and all of our other East Texas lakes. Palestine, you're going to see probably some frog fishing on Palestine in that Bass Pro Tour Heavy Hitters event. You're going to see frogging going on all of our area lakes around here, with the exception of Lake Fork because of the low water. And you'll probably still catch some on frogs on Lake Fork here pretty soon. But everybody loves to throw a frog. Everybody loves to watch a bass blow up on a frog. And I don't know if any of my input was considered when they built this rod or not, but I have spoken briefly to Casey and a couple of the guys about what I like in a frog rod. And this is the frog rod. Like, I don't often come on here and tell you guys, you know, I think like with my jig rod, I'm like my 7.7 Heavy Century Series, that's the jig rod, dude. Like, that's the one. That's the best one. This is the frog rod. It's absolutely perfect. It's a 7.3 heavy, but the tip, and I can't really show you that on here very well, but the tip on this thing has a good amount of flex. Not too much. It's like just right. It's the right amount of flex to land that frog soft and to walk it easy. but it's a 7.3 heavy meat stick at the bottom end. It's very, very, very light, okay? Very light, but very strong. It's just, they hit this one so far out of the park, you can't even see it no more. I mean, guys, this is not cork. I know it looks like cork. It's not the old cork that's going to wear and tear on you. This is that foam neoprene stuff that all the modern handles are made out of. It just looks like cork. It's kind of a neat design. Looks classic. I love the color concept on this too. Just the straight matte black with the gold trim. It looks slick, man. I'm telling you guys, if you want the best frog rod that I've ever felt, go right now while they last. Because you know how things are at 6 and Fishing. They're going to run out. Go right now and get you a 7.3 heavy Vega rod at 6inchfishing.com and use the code YourLakeForkGuide and save 10% on that rod. They're not that expensive either. They're like $130, $130, $130. Now they also have another Vega rod they came out with, and I'll be honest with you, this one's new to me. I've never even thought about throwing a frog on a rod like this. This is a 6 foot 10 inch heavy action frog rod. It kind of seems odd to me, but from what I hear, they've got a lot of guys they work with that are real good fishermen. Now, this is basically for being real accurate, like a sniper around docks, around flooded cover. And that's what this 610 heavy Vega series rod is for. It feels great. I'm looking forward to trying it out around cover and close quarters. I am going to give it its full run this spring, every time I get a chance. But this is new to me. But if you want to try it, get you one of those too, because it's a 610 heavy. I mean, it's a stout, stiff rod. It's going to jerk on them pretty good for being how short it is. But with the shorter the rod is, the easier it is to be accurate. That is true. That is true. So if you're trying to be real accurate around docks, flooded bushes, something like that with a frog, this may be the ticket right here, the 610 heavy Vega series. But that 7.3 heavy, that's hands down the best frog rod I ever put in my hand. Like, it's so perfect for a frog. I've had one that I really love that's been really, really close. It's 7.4 heavy. It has a little bit of a tip to it. It's an old Lux series. It's kind of a one-off. They never really released that model. But it wasn't quite perfect. This one is perfect. It's just perfect. So, that being said, I guess it's time to get into some top baits. Hey, if you guys don't mind right now before we get into top baits, hit that thumbs up for me, man. Give us some likes. That sure does help us. It helps a lot. It helps more people get to see this content, and that way we get to help more people catch more and bigger fish, which is what we're all about, as you guys know. Also, drop me a comment. Let me know who I'm talking about. Tag your buddies in the comments. Share this thing. Please do share it. Sharing helps me more than anything else. I'll see the thumbs up pouring in on Facebook right now. Thank y'all very much. But also share this thing. That helps so, so, so much. All right. Fishing on Lake Fork, and actually with the wind that we've had, I've been to a couple lakes here recently, just hiding from the wind, you know, because it's been blowing so hard. But fishing's just great. I mean, right now, this is it, guys. This is as good as it's going to get. Like, we're in it right now. So if you got a chance to go fishing this weekend, by God, go fishing this weekend. We did have a little bit of a cold front the last day or two. It's not going to affect them that much. It may slow it down a little bit. I mean, Monday and Tuesday were just unbelievable. I mean, it didn't matter where you were, how you were fishing. As long as you were shallow somewhere, you were catching them. I mean, it was just really, really good fishing Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday was a little bit worse. We had that, I think the storm and the thunder and lightning right off the bat monkeyed them up a little bit. But we still caught good fish. Like I say, it was worse. We had a 20-something pound bag. I mean, it was still really good. And it's just continued. It's just continued throughout the week. So fishing last week was good too. It's unbelievably good. There's a couple different ways to do it on Lake Fork as we talk about it. And we've kind of gotten to that time of year where it's those two patterns. There's two patterns. And these two patterns are both really good. On one day, one will be better. And on another day, another will be better. It has a lot to do with the moon cycles and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm telling you guys is, you can go run either one of these patterns and be productive every single day right now. It's just some days one's a little better than the other, okay? First one is spawning bass. Sight fishing, spawning bass. And you don't have to sight fish them to catch them, okay? You don't have to sight fish them to catch them. I think it makes it easier. I think it's more fun. And you can specifically target the size of fish that you want to catch when you're sight fishing. When I'm looking at them on the bed, you guys know what I've been throwing. It's going to be the same bait that I've been throwing the last couple of years on every bed fish that I've caught. It's going to be the 6-cent stroker crawl on a 3/8 ounce weight, and I'm throwing it on a 3/0 flipping hook. I throw the jugular hook a lot. Be honest with you guys, I just ran out of jugular hooks this week. Flipped over to the 3/0 ox hook. They both work the same. The one hook that I wouldn't use when I'm sight fishing is an EWG style hook. I don't want to fish an EWG style hook when I'm sight fishing. But, you know, an old flipping hook like the ox from 6 cents or the offset straight shank hook like a jugular hook from 6 cents. Both of those will work just as well as the other. Everything you see here is a 6 cents product, guys. That's a 6-cent stroker crawl. That's a 6 cents hook. That's a 6 cents weight. And that's a 6 cents bobber stop. You can buy my entire setup at 6centsfishing.com. Use that same code, your Lake Fork Guide. It saves you 10% on everything you order. Red is important. This is dark melon red is the color. I don't know how well y'all can see that on camera, but see that red flake in there? Dark melon red is the color I'm using. Red is important. Go buy the dark melon red stroker crawls for your bed fishing. There is something about the red on the bed, man. They just bite it better. I've thrown green pumpkin. I've thrown white. I've thrown all the different colors. There's something to the red deal that they just more fish more consistently. You know, some fish, it doesn't matter what you throw up there. Some fish are picky. And that red flake seems to really help those pickier fish go ahead and get up there and get interested in it. I see some guys asking about the bead. The bead has been on here. Okay, I've been using, I'll normally put a red glass bead right here. Okay, but the other day, or yesterday, at the end of the day, I took the bead off. And the only reason I took the bead off is because I had a break off on a big fish and I was in a hurry to get a bait back in there and I didn't have my hands on my beads right away. So I just tied it on without the bead. I do use a red bead between the weight and the bait, and then I slide the bobber stopper down and I leave it a little gap about like that. That way that weight can clack. When I'm shaking it in that bed, that weight can clack on that bead. I have been using the bead. I just got in a hurry right at the end of the day on the last fish and I didn't tie it back on there. But you can bet you bottom dollar the next day I go out, I'll retie and I'll put a bead on there. Because that bead does make a difference as well. I think having a little more red's fine, but I really think it's the noise of the bead helps draw fish in that are more reluctant to bite. The next best bait in a spawning area to me is going to be just an old clout stick bait. A 5-inch stick bait is going to get it done. The one I've been using the most has been watermelon candy. That's been the most effective. That's just a watermelon seed bait with green and purple flake in it. But just a 5-inch stick bait. Now we are throwing this on a 3 or 4/0 stout wide gap hook. So an EWG style hook, that's a 6 cents hook, and that's a 6 cents clout. Again, everything you're seeing here, 6 cents fishing. I mean, I don't just use 6 cents fishing products, but man, the stuff they make is so good. A lot of times it is all that I use. I've got a 6-inch rod. I've got 6 cents clout. I got a 6 cents hook. I mean, other than the line and the reel, everything's 6 cents fishing here. So clout stick bait, and this is really simple. You just, on Lake Fork right now, you just go in there into a spawning area, especially if you see signs of life. If you see surface activity, you see bait fish in the area, just pick apart every stump in the shallow water in the back of these pockets and coves with this clout stick bait. I assure you, you will catch plenty of fish right now on Lake Fork doing that. You're going to catch some smaller ones, but you can also catch really big ones doing that as well. So numbers of bites, you want to go get numbers of bites, get you a clout stick bait, fish it weightless Texas rig, and just daub it around all the stumps and the spawning areas that got activity in them. All right, next bait, and one that just doesn't get enough publicity. The whale swim bait from 6 Cents Fishing. I've been throwing 2 colors on this. This is electric shiner. I'm throwing this color when the water has good visibility. When I get in more stained water, I'm throwing platinum white is the color I'm throwing in the stained water. We're rigging that up on a 5/0 keel weighted swim bait hook. Again, really simple, especially if I'm in a spawning area where the wind is present. So if I'm in a spawning area that's got some wind blowing through it, I'm picking up this swim bait and just covering water, covering ground. Man, and you don't get as many bites on this as you do with the clout stick bait. But when you get a bite, it's usually a pretty darn good one up to a really, really big one, okay? So if you're wanting to go big fish hunting and you're wanting to get off the main lake points, it's too windy, that's not working for you, whatever, pick up that whale swim bait and fire it around and you will get some good bites on it. All right, now let's talk about the points, shallow points. So we just updated. The FishLife app packages all just got updated, right? Lake Palestine, all of them, every one of them. Lake Fork just got updated. On the Lake Fork package, it's split about 50-50. We've got shallow pockets, which are spawning areas, and we've got shallow points. Some of these shallow points are not as good as they usually are. Some of them still are good. Some of them don't run out the same way at the new water level as they do when the lake is full. Okay, somebody says, what pound test on the well? I'm actually throwing it on 20-pound fluorocarbon is what I'm throwing it on. So these shallow points aren't all, like, you can't just run all the same ones that you used to, right? You can't do that. So you got to be careful. You got to find the right ones. The FishLife app will help you find ones that are good this year. On those shallow points, Carolina rig, we talked about it last week. That's the easiest way to go get bites. It's like the clout stick bait in the spawning pockets. You just go fish that Carolina rig real slow. That's the most consistent and easiest way to get bit. But everybody likes to throw these big swim baits on these points, and there's a good reason. And right now they're biting that big swim bait pretty darn good. And you can't throw glide baits. And we talked about glide baits at the seminar. We talked about them last week a little bit. But probably my favorite bait, and it's the easiest bait for like any customer to grasp, no matter their experience level, is going to be a line through swim bait, guys. My favorite line through swim bait is going to be the Felon by Smash Tech Custom Baits. I like having some type of white in it right now because with the lake being low and no grass, most of these points, when I'm fishing them, I want the wind to be rocking these points. When that happens with the lake and the condition it's in with no grass, you get dirt lines, mud lines, the water gets churned up and stained on a lot of these points. So I'm having some kind of white color, like this one right here. I think this is chartreuse shad. It's got a little chartreuse stripe right below the gray, but it's got a whitish colored belly. Sometimes when the water's dirty, I'm throwing pearl white. Olive shad is another good color we've been throwing a lot. Has a white belly. But have some white on the belly. This bait's really, really simple to throw. The hardest thing about this bait is being able to reel it slow enough. This bait will flat out wag the tail hard as it can be at a very slow retrieve speed. That's why this one is my favorite. And just the results I've gotten on it over the years, the fish just flat out bite that Felon from Smash Tech. But the key to that bait is to reel it slow enough. It's a big chunk of plastic with a lot of buoyancy. Okay, it will sink slowly, but it's got a lot of buoyancy and it's got a lot of drag with that big tail. If you don't reel it slow enough, it's going to be right on the surface and bouncing through the waves, and you're not going to get bit. You have to fish it slow. Slow, slow, slow. Really, really slow on the swim bait. Fish those points when the wind is killing them. You want the wind to be rocking them. That's the deal. Those are the top baits. We're 20 minutes into the live stream. Those are the top baits. Now we got time for questions. We're live on both platforms, YouTube and Facebook as well. And ask me some questions. We'll answer them. Did I just beatbox a little bit? I think I did. Vance Miller says, what a line through versus the belly weighted hooks type swim bait. Vance Miller, can you maybe retype that question? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Like, when do I use a line through versus a belly weight? Well, the line through I'm using on those shallow points, it's a bigger profile bait, and those shallow points are really shallow. And I want to fish that bait really, really slow for those bigger fish on those points, and that's why I'm using a line through. The belly weighted one is when I'm fishing around all those stumps. So basically, the line through is when I can get away with that hook on the bottom, but if I'm fishing it through a bunch of stumps and root systems, I need the weedless rigged type of swim bait. So that's kind of the main decision on why I fish one versus the other, is the cover. What line am I throwing in the beds? 20-pound fluorocarbon. Seagull Red Label is the one I use. I would recommend a Braze X if you only fish once a week, because Seagull Red Label does have some memory. Fishing shallow in the morning or midday? All day. Right now, everything's shallow. It's a shallow point or a shallow pocket. It's shallow all day. Shallow all day. Every day. Most of the fish in the lake are on the bank. And they're either pulling up, feeding on shallow points, or they're pulling back into shallow pockets and spawning. John, oh, here we go. What size belly weight? Man, they all come the same size. It's a 5/0 belly weighted hook, and I think it's an 1/8 ounce. I think that might be wrong, but it's just it's only one size. You don't have an option. I'm just buying the 5/0 hook, and whatever belly weight comes on it comes on it. John Sykes says he's got a bait question. Water temps low 40s, water clear is about 3 foot. I'm thinking wintertime baits. What are your thoughts? Yeah, water temp low 40s is definitely wintertime fishing. So if you're in a different part of the country, your water's in the low 40s, those bass are still in winter mode, not pre-spawn. They're in winter mode. Okay, when it gets up around 50, they'll go into pre-spawn mode most likely. In that situation, low 40s, 3 foot of clarity, I think jerkbait's going to be your best friend, in my opinion. That's probably, with that much clarity, that cold of water, jerkbait's probably going to be your best friend. The one day the wind ain't bad and you ain't fishing. I know, man. That's the deal with me these days. I've got plenty of other obligations that I just can't fish every single day like I used to. So business obligations, kid obligations, all that good stuff. Do you think there's a lot of fish you can't get to in a big bass boat with low water? Yep, I sure do. I think parts of Lake Fork that we can't access in a full-size bass boat have plenty of fish in them right now with what's going on the lake. Yeah. Sam Rayburn this weekend, you got any thoughts? Man, I think it would be the same. I mean, if anything, they're further along. Pick that frog up. Pick that frog up on Sam Rayburn, because you're going to have some fish that are already post-spawn on Rayburn. You're going to have some that are spawning, maybe a few that are still pre-spawn on Rayburn at this point. I would have a chatterbait around grass. I would have a swim bait. I would have a frog. That would be my main plan of attack on Rayburn. Al Ford says he's got to go to work. Man, I appreciate you taking time out of work to join us. Roger Nixon, same thing, brother. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. I know it's weird doing it during the day. I got to get in where I fit in these days. Would I say all lakes in East Texas, the fish are spawning? Yes, I would. All lakes in East Texas, fish are spawning right now. Every one of them. Notice there's new waypoints on the app. Yep, we just uploaded new waypoints for Lake Fork yesterday. All of our packages updated this week on the FishLife app. How's the sight fishing different now with the 6 foot lower depth versus last year with more bank cover? I mean, it's actually easier to see them in the areas where the water's clear. They just get right up next to the stump or lay down or whatever they can get on. The bigger fish are still spawning deeper. You know, the thing about bigger fish when they're spawning, they're always going to go they're going to go to a depth where you can just barely see them. That's where they're going to be. A lot of the bigger fish are going to be out there. That varies depending on what part of the lake you're in. As far as how's it different, there's different areas that are good. There's some areas that we normally catch a lot of spawning bass in that aren't nearly as good this year because the different bottom content or just the different shape of the lake. Now that it's 6 foot low, it doesn't cut out the way that they like it or whatever. And that's where the FishLife app helps you. You got a guy like me that's out there seeing those differences and making the adjustments week to week. And I'm telling you where the best spawning areas are on the lake in that FishLife app. So some of the same areas are good. Long Branch is always good. It's good this year too. Glade's always good. It's good this year too. I mean, it's just different areas of those creeks are good. One thing you guys got to remember when you're going into spawning areas and shallow pockets where you're wanting to find spawning bass, these fish spread out. Okay, they spread out when they spawn. They don't always, they might get a little cluster of them down a bank line or something, but you have to go into these areas and cover these shallow water areas to find these fish. And oftentimes it's going to be one here, one there. Okay, so you're not always going to just catch a group of them. When they spawn, they spread out away from each other a little bit to spawn. So you've really got to get in these shallow water areas that they're spawning in and cover all of it. It's slow. It takes time. But the good news is you get in the right areas, there's a bunch of fish pulled up there, and after you've made your way through there and picked it apart, you've caught several fish. Is it normal to not see any cruising fish when the water is 70? Depends on the conditions leading up to that. Depends on the lake in some ways. Like on Lake Fork right now, you're going to see some cruising fish when the water's 70, I would think. Depends on how boat shy the fish are. You know, at Lake Fork, the fish kind of start getting used to boats a little bit, and they're not nearly as boat shy. Like I've seen fish that will stay on a bed when your boat gets right on top of them on Lake Fork. Just because but it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to bite. A lot of times when you go to a lake and a fish will stay on a bed when your boat gets close, that fish is going to bite first flip or second flip. On Lake Fork, that doesn't necessarily mean that, because sometimes that fish is just so used to seeing boats, but he's still been caught too many times and he's just not willing to bite. I've seen that scenario play out. Have I ever fished on Lake Allen Henry? I sure haven't. Don't forget about the drop shot. Yeah. Listen, I'll spend my life trying to forget about the drop shot. I just don't like fishing it at all, right? I know it is working, though. I know Ozio's catching some drop shot fish on Lake Fork, some other guys as well. Drop shot is working on Lake Fork. I can't stand fishing it. Can't stand fishing it. I don't think the drop shot's catching. I think the drop shot fish that they're catching, most of those are probably biting the clout stick bait too, in my opinion. I'm seeing some questions about a sweep swim bait. Yeah, you're going to need a 7 or 8 aught hook in that sweep swim bait. It's a really tall bait, dense bait. You're going to want to run a 7 or 8 aught hook in that. Owner Beast hook is the one to go with on that. You can't run it weightless. It won't ride true if it's weightless. We caught lots of 1 pound males and 1 to 3 foot during megabass. How far out with the big females being flooded timber? A lot of that just has to do with the pressure that's on the lake that day. They're probably just out at the first drop or just kind of out in 5 or 6 foot hanging around a piece of timber. In that area that you were in, they just may not have pulled in yet, too. I mean, it's that can be the case at times. So they're just a little more weary. No beds in Virginia yet. I bet not in Virginia. What's up with the draw? How is it doing? Draw's good. Glide bait bite is good. Glide bait bite is good. It's easier for me with customers to throw a line through. That's the deal. Ronnie Scott, thank you for correcting that. I was a little nervous about that. No, the glide bait bite is good. But, you got to have somebody, you have to know how to fish a glide bait a little bit, right? Like, you got to have a little bit of rhythm and timing to the way you work a glide bait. So for me, it's a lot easier to just hand the customer a line there and be like, hey, throw that out there, and just reel it very, very slow. That's a lot easier as a guide to get somebody to do that effectively. How much longer do we have for a chance to catch a spawning bass? And if I don't make it, is June a good time to... Can't get the see more button. There we go. To come down. Yeah, June's a good fishing month. June's a very good fishing month. Now, you're not going to have very many spawning. I mean, sometimes we'll have a couple fish still spawning in June, but not pretty rare and not very many. You'll be able to catch spawning bass throughout the month of April for sure in about half. Usually about the first 10 days of May. Probably this year about half or maybe even a little more of May. You'll have a chance to catch some spawning bass. Topwater, yeah. Topwater bite's starting to happen too. Topwater bite is starting to go down. And if we keep getting warm weather, that topwater bite's going to get better and better and better. I like popping baits in spawning areas, and I like walking baits on the points. But there is some topwater bite happening too. Just not very consistently yet. What are my thoughts about fishing at night during the spawn? I mean, I'm sure it's very effective. I'm sure it's very, very effective. It's not something I ever do. I just never do it. What weight am I throwing with the sweep? So guys, this is the second time we've had somebody ask a question about a swim bait hook's weight. The size is all you need. They only come in one weight. I don't remember what the 7/0 or 8/0 belly weight is. I never know. I just pick the hook that fits the bait. That's more important than the weight of it. The hook's got to fit the bait where I can hook a fish with it. 7/0 or 8/0 is probably going to be about a 1/2 ounce weight. Probably so. That's what it's going to be. But it only comes in one size. You can't buy a 7/0 1/4 ounce or 7/0 1/2 ounce, 7/0 3/8 ounce. It's just one size. When do you target the shad spawn fish on Fork this summer? Man, when I see the signs, and it's really not summer. It's usually anywhere from April to May is when it starts. So you don't have to get all the way into summer to have shad spawn going on. You just look for the signs. And basically, it's coming pretty soon. I mean, once the water's got to get up into the 70s and kind of establish in the 70s to really start seeing the shad spawn in earnest. But if you pay attention, you'll see when you're driving around the lake first thing in the morning, the blue herons lined up in some areas. When you see that in late April, May, even parts of June, pull in there first thing, because the shad spawn's probably happening. If you see 4 or 5 herons lined up next to each other, there's probably a shad spawn going on. So I just kind of keep my eyes peeled. When I get into April, I'll start keeping my eyes peeled as I drive around the lake in the morning. And the first time that I see 4 or 5 herons lined up on a bank, you can bet I'm going to pull in there, and that's usually when the shad spawn's going on. And a lot of times it'll be a dead giveaway, because you'll be, what'll happen often is I'll go into a spawning area first thing in the morning to go fish for spawning fish. And then at the mouth of it on a point, I'll hear the shad blowing up, because the shad get to boiling and flickering when they're really spawning. And so you'll actually hear that and see that out at the mouth of the pocket you're fishing. Well, then that gives me a dead giveaway. Shad spawn's going on. I'll flip around, go out there, and then the next day I'll actually start looking for it. Three-eighths ounce on the 7/0? Yeah, 3/8 ounce. Okay, that makes sense. Best 3 baits for a co-angler during the spawn. A weightless plastic, like, the clout stick bait. And a weedless swim bait, because you can throw it anywhere and it gets bit in the spawn. And probably a flipping bait. So probably the 3 shallow baits that I told you guys about tonight. That swim bait you can throw anywhere. Weightless plastic you can throw anywhere. I mean, probably a Texas rig, creature bait, weightless plastic, and a weedless swim bait. They're just very versatile for co-anglers, because you never know what kind of cover you're going to be fishing as a co-angler, depending on who your angler is that you draw. What is your opinion on using bright colored white or methylate versus a more natural color under what conditions? Just watercolor and light. Watercolor and light. It's almost an instinctual call. I mean, it's just kind of a gut instinct call. But like if I've got really dirty water, so you got one right here. If I got really dirty water, I love throwing a methylate worm. I do. I love throwing brighter colors in this time of year if I've got dirty water. I think it's the most effective thing you can throw. If I've got a really dark day and stained water, I probably can go to this then too, like heavy cloud cover stained water. Now, if I've got a heavy cloud cover day but the water's still really clear, I'm still going to go natural colors. That's just kind of my take on it, but it can vary for different guys. And man, don't get too caught up on color. Color is the least important decision you make in bait selection, in my opinion. I think the same fish that'll bite this methylate would probably bite a green pumpkin most of the time. Now, not every one of them. Maybe you catch more fish with methylate or you catch more fish with green pumpkin. But a lot of those fish that'll bite this will bite the green pumpkin one as well. So don't get too caught up about colors, guys. When do I think the shad will start spawning on Fork? The gizzard shad are. That's what cues in that shallow point bite is the gizzard shad spawn. Gizzard shad spawn is a little different than the threadfin, though, in my experience. When we say shad spawn, I think most of us are referring to the threadfin shad spawn. That's the one where you see them boiling at the surface. It's very visual. It's chaotic. It's, as many. It's the faster you can get them in and get them off, the more fish you can catch, because it gets every cast at times. It's crazy. That usually starts when the water establishes itself and stays in the 70s consistently. That's usually when that starts. So when will it start? It all depends on the weather and the water temperatures. It can start here in 2 weeks. It can start here in a month. You just don't know. It's going to depend on the weather. I've seen the water be 63 degrees in the beginning of May on Lake Fork. So we don't know until the weather, we see how the weather shakes out. When throwing a clout, I've been putting a nail weight in it. Should I just throw it without? Yeah, I do. I rig the clout completely weightless. I just put it on a 3 or 4/0 EWG stout hook from 6 cents, and that hook is enough weight. You can throw it really well. It has the right fall, the right sink rate. So when I'm fishing a wacky rig trick worm now, that's when I put a nail weight in it. So. Playing Frisbee and watching, that's awesome. Do you have just a few spawning pockets you go in and rotate, or go to completely different ones every day? I don't rotate, I wouldn't say. Kind of the way I do it, and this may not be the right way. This might be something I need to rethink. I might be wrong on this, but I'll be honest with you, just thinking about the way I've done it, is if I've got a bunch of bedfish in a pocket, I'm coming back to that pocket day after day till I don't. I'm going to milk it dry. And so if I've got enough bedfish in 2 or 3 pockets to last the whole day, then we're going to fish 2 or 3 pockets the whole day. We're going to milk that pocket for all it's worth. When those dry up, I'm going to go find a new one. And you can kind of see it coming, you get a few bedfish in there, then you get a lot of bedfish in there, then you get a little less bedfish in there. So you can kind of see the flow coming in and out of these pockets. And a lot of times, a couple weeks later, that pocket will reload. So no, once we find some, or we, intentionally, okay, I'm going to let that pocket rest today, hell no. If I know there's fish in there, we're going to go catch every one of them we can out of there. Now, what I don't do, and I don't like doing, is catching the same fish day after day. I got a customer that caught a 6-pounder off that bed, go in there the next day, catch that same 6-pounder, go in there the next day, catch that same 6-pounder. I don't like doing that. I do like to kind of rotate the bed, so to speak. Now, if I catch that 6-pounder today, our customer does, 2 or 3 days later, that 6-pounder still sitting there, when we roll by it, we're probably going to catch it again, if I'm being honest with you. I don't like catching them a lot of days in a row. That's a hard decision to make, because if there's a 6 or 7-pounder on a bed, your customer wants to catch that fish. So there's times when I literally pretend like I don't see one, and then I know it's there, because I feel bad for doing. I don't know why. My conscience gets me on that. Is there times when I've caught them 2 days in a row? Yeah. 3 days in a row, I don't think I've ever done that. 2 days in a row, at times I have. Especially if it's a tougher day the next day, and I know that fish is there. Man, let's go get that one real quick. I wonder about that on the Bass Pro Tour when these guys are sight fishing these fish. Are they going back to the same beds if it's spawning season and catching the same fish off a bed? I've wondered about that with Bass Pro Tour. Because, technically they could weigh the same fish in every day of that tournament on the right fish. Some of these fish will stay on a bed. On Lake Fork, you can have a 4 or 5 pound male, which is awesome in the Bass Pro Tour to catch a 4 or 5 pounder. You can have a 4 or 5 pound male that will stay on a bed for up to two weeks at times, I've seen. So, and will bite every day, because they just are hopped up, and some of them are real aggressive. Those guys could catch that fish on day 1, and then they get their rest day, and then on their second round, which is day 3, they can catch it again. Then in the knockout stage, they could catch it again. Then in the championship, they could catch it again. They could catch that same fish 4 times in the tournament. I don't know that any of them are doing that, or if they have a rule against it. I don't know. I think it is best to start early in the morning or wait till it warms up a bit for the fish to get more active. They've been biting right off the bat. We're going out and just fishing, throwing a swim bait, throwing a clout, and getting bites right away. Okay, so, or the shallow point deal can happen right away early in the morning. So you can go out early and start catching them. So you don't have to wait around. Somebody asked if I think it's best to start early or wait till it warms up a bit for them to get more active. The bed fishing, the sight fishing gets better later in the day, in the afternoon. I will tell you that. For me, it has, and that's kind of traditional, common knowledge that bed fishing gets better later in the day. But as far as just fishing goes, they're biting first thing in the morning pretty good. It's kind of an all-day deal right now, boys. It's really good right now. Calvin Perry, okay, so when you asked me about the different colors, you were specifically talking about bed fishing, and he says he's old and blind and need all the help he can get on seeing the bait in the bed. Here's what I don't want to do. I don't actually want to see the bait in the bed. I think you're better served spawn fishing, bed fishing, sight fishing, looking at the fish, if you don't see the bait. If you feel the bite and feel the fish move the bait. I tell all my customers, just because if you see your bait go away, don't set the hook. Even when you feel the fish hit it, don't set the hook. Check that fish up, make sure he's got it and moving with it before you swing. Here's the deal. If a fish bites a bait and doesn't have it, and you set the hook and rip that bait 100 miles an hour away from that fish right in front of his face, you can, some of them they won't care. But some of these fish, especially bigger ones, and Lake Fork fish that are pressured, you can spook the crap out of them and they won't come back and bite. Okay? That does happen. So I would much rather you have that fish bite and have the bait and you pull up on it and he spits it out than you swing on him when he doesn't have it all the way or doesn't have it at all and spook him. So let that bait bite it and hold it. Eventually, they'll bite it and hold it over. And I've had them bite it and hold it I don't know how many times. Bite and hold, bite and hold, bite and hold, bite and spit, bite and spit, bite and spit. And then eventually they'll bite it and move it off the bed. And when they do that and you swing on them, 99% of the time, you got them, bud. So that's my philosophy on it. I've seen us lose fish and make fish not bite because we spooked them from swinging on them when they didn't have the bait good. So I like to not see the bait. I don't want to see the bait disappear. I don't want to see the fish bite the bait. Even when I feel the fish bite the bait, I'm going to make sure he's moving with it before I pop him. That's my philosophy on that. Opinion on Zach Watts, the Z-Dub technique of wacky rigging on beds. Yeah, Zach's going to throw that wacky worm everywhere. And I've seen him do it in the boat with me. And he can catch them off a bed like that, but I can catch them a lot faster on the Texas rig. And Zach will tell you the same thing. If you're bed fishing on me and you got a wacky rig, I'm going to catch them a lot faster than you are. I mean, that's true. John Sykes said his son told him he better listen to Billy while he played. That's what I'm talking about. That's awesome, man. It's crazy. That's so that's the stuff that like been doing this for 5 years and it still is like unfathomable to me. Like it's unbelievable. I'm just a dude that loves fishing. Period. Like that's the only thing I get going for me. I don't have any major tournament skins on the wall. I never had the opportunity to fish any major tournaments. I'm not the guy that catches the most double-digit fish every year. I mean, there's been some years where I've had the biggest fish of the year for guides or, I've done, well in some group trips or guide tournaments, but I've never been the guy. Like, I've never been the number one guy. And so the only thing that I could say I'm the number one guy at, especially at Lake Fork, is sharing information. And that's probably why, your son's like that and why you guys that watch are so loyal. But to just be a dude that, used to fish in a plastic pond hopper, an old beat up 93 model Pro Gator glass, bass boat, 17 footer, 1611, but we called her 17. To be that guy that just wanted to fish every time I could get off work early or whatever. And now to have people that actually take the time to listen and my advice actually helps them, and just the fact that you guys respect what I do enough to listen, and like with the Elite Series guys and the Bass Pro Tour guys that respect the content I put out, it's a bit unbelievable for your boy, okay? It really, really is. It's a pretty crazy thing that's happened in my life through all this. So I really don't know how to say it or what to say here, but I'm just so appreciative of it. I mean, I truly am so appreciative of everything that I've gotten to do and just my day-to-day routine, the life that I get to live, the lifestyle I get to live. You know, I've told customers this, and I mean, I've told friends this. I've looked over at guys that have been in the boat with me, and when we're idling out of the marina, I look over at them and I tell them, you know what, boys? Bill Gates ain't got nothing on me, dude. I'm the richest dude on the planet right now. And I mean that. I truly mean that. When I go out, I feel like day to day, I'm the richest dude on the planet. And I ain't got money, but I don't need money because I got what I need. We're comfortable at home. We don't go hungry. We stay warm. And got people that love me in my life. I got great friends that I honestly couldn't do my job. See, I borrowed boats from 3 different guys. I had a little breakdown, had a part failure in my motor a week or 2 ago, and had my boat out of commission waiting on a part for a little while, and I borrowed boats from 3 different guys. I mean, I definitely couldn't do what I do without the friends that I have in my life. And you guys know Zach Watts. He's my best friend, like a brother to me. I mean, his dad calls me son, and I call his son dad, and call his dad dad. And but he's also my business partner. And he does, the FishLife app wouldn't be what it is without Zach Watts and Cody Burnett, and all of our contributing partners that I've become friends with, all of those guys as well. So I can't thank you guys enough that watch, and I can't thank everybody that's involved in my life in a deeper way enough, because I'm the lucky one. I'm the one that gets to go do what I love to do every day, and I'm never going to forget that it all started in a plastic boat. It all started in a plastic boat, and a guy that read every article and watched every TV show and just wanted so bad to figure out how to catch the next fish. That's all I ever wanted to do. So, man, John Sykes made me think of all this because his kid told him to watch me. That's somebody's kid told him to watch me. I mean, it's awesome. It's really awesome. I don't know what else to say or how to say it. I'm not really good at some of these things like this, but it means a lot. John, to tell your son that I said thank you. I had a guy, Todd Udy, sent me a video one time. He's just a one-time guide customer, and Todd is a police officer, and I can't remember what town he's in, somewhere around DFW, but he's got a place at the lake. Great guy. Met Todd and his wife, great people. His son Lane was on their kitchen floor one night drawing a picture of him and a guy and a big bass, and he's like, Lane, what are you doing? He's like, I'm drawing a picture. You go, what are you drawing a picture of? Well, it's me fishing. And he goes, well, who are you fishing with? And he says, Billy Lawson. He goes, well, you're not fishing with Dad? He goes, no, I'm fishing with Billy Lawson. I mean, that is real. You know what I mean? Like, that's the realest thing that means the most to me. I mean, and all the fish catches and the cool moments in the boat, I mean, there's nothing better than that to me right there. That some kid looks up to me through fishing. It's something I feel like I don't deserve. I'll get off it. I'm getting a little emotional about it or whatever, man. I'm sorry. Getting in my feelings, boys. I'm getting in my feelings today. But it's just so awesome, man. It's so, so awesome. There you go. Robert James says, as I'm in my plastic kayak fishing glade, listening to this. Dude, that is, thank you, Robert James. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, man. You guys are the best. Bass Colonel says he killed him yesterday on a felon swim bait. The wind was howling. The fish were super shallow. That's right. That's it. That felon swim bait ain't no joke. I'm telling y'all, that's a bite getter. It is a bite getter. Sight fishing this weekend. What are we throwing early in the morning? Clout stick bait and the whale swim bait, bud. Get in that same spawner areas. Pick those ones off before you can see them with a clout stick bait and a whale swim bait. Bryce Millett says, would you leave big boat at home if you have a smaller custom shallow water boat to get further back in shallow flats? It's rigged out like big boat. My wife only wants to sight fish now. That's awesome. The advantage you would have right now. Now, I would say a week or two ago, you would have a huge advantage going in that shallow water boat. But the advantage you would, because now fish are spawning all across the lake for the most part. So the advantage you would have now is you could get to fish that were a little more unpressured. But you can access plenty of spawning fish on Lake Fork with a regular bass boat now. You don't have to go way back to find them anymore. So there's plenty of fish. If you want to be more comfortable in the bass boat, you'll be fine. But those fish are going to get pressured because it's Lake Fork and it's springtime and it's low, fishing small and all that. So you would have the advantage of being able to access some fish that other guys don't have access to, including me. So I don't know where to begin to tell you to go look for that because I can't get into it. So I haven't been back, obviously I haven't been back in any of those areas, so I can't tell you which ones have fish. I know there's some out there because there's a lot of water I can't access right now. So I know there's some out there, I just don't know where. I don't know where the water drops back off deep enough to hold them. I don't know any of that. So that's on you to find that. Life like crawls versus a stroker crawl. Man, it doesn't matter. I throw the stroker crawl on beds. It does everything I want a bed fishing bait to do. What I want a bed fishing bait to do, number one, is be short and compact so the fish has a hard time biting the bait without getting a hook. That's the number one thing I want a bed fishing bait to do. The next thing that I want a bed fishing bait to do is have great action with very little movement. The appendages on the stroker crawl are thin and compact, but they're thin, so with me just barely shaking the slack, those claws will vibrate and move. On lifelike crawls, a lot of times the claws are thicker and it takes more to move them. So in my opinion, that would be a worse bait than a stroker crawl. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. You could throw a dozen, 100 different baits at a bed fish and catch it. It's about reading that fish's behavior, knowing how aggressive to fish for that fish, hit him with the bait, don't hit him with the bait, how fast to swim it in, how far behind you have to throw it and sneak in on them, you know, the accuracy of your pitching, all that stuff matters infinitely more than what bait you throw at it. You ever throw tubes? Yeah, tubes are great bed. Tubes are great bed fishing baits because what do? They're short and compact, and they have thin appendages, so they move with very little movement or pressure, water pressure when they move. So tubes are really good. In fact, my bed fishing bait of choice, when it was made, it's been discontinued, but my bed fishing bait of choice way back in the day was the Lake Fork Tackle crawl tube. It was just a tube with a couple little crawl appendages on it. That was my favorite bed fishing bait before it was discontinued. You know, now we've got stuff that I think's a little bit better. But that was, I think I might still have a box of those somewhere. I need to go ahead and use them again because they're really good. And they probably ain't seen, I think I got like a Plano box full of those somewhere. And I bet those fish ain't seen a crawl tube in a hot minute, dog. But for bed fish, it really doesn't matter. I mean, the bait you pick really does not matter that much. It needs to do the right things, but it can be any of 100 baits that do those things. It's about knowing how to sight fish, knowing how to read their behavior, and being accurate. Being an accurate pitcher is the most important thing about sight fishing. Six-inch junkie going with me Tuesday. Hell yeah, dog. Crawl tubes. Back to work, then headed to Fork for the weekend. That's right. Good luck, brother. You're picking a good weekend to come. It's been good. We've had some good weekends lately, right? Like even back on that new moon, we had really good weather for the weekend. Warming trend. Like we've had some good weekend draws for you weekend guys this year, for sure. Definitely have. Definitely have. Guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. The questions are slowing down. We've been on here for about an hour. Man, again, I cannot thank you guys enough. Everything I say on here, I tell you what. I don't always say the right thing. I don't always say the politically correct thing. That's for dang sure. We get into some controversial stuff on here at times, and I never hesitate to speak my mind or talk about what I believe in. But I'll tell you guys this. Everything I say on here is real. And anybody for 5 years that can prove me different, I dare them to, because they can't. They can't. There's been some stuff, other stuff said out there that we can prove is wrong. Okay? But anything that we've put out, if you can prove that it ain't real, come on with it, dog. Come on with it. I'll welcome that challenge anytime, man. What we say on here, we mean, we stand behind, and it is real. And I can't thank you guys enough for following the way you do. We don't have the biggest audience, but we definitely got the best. That's for dang sure. And let's bring a little Whiskey Myers back into our life. A little bit of Frog Man. It's almost time to throw a frog. Cheers, y'all. Y'all go catch some fish. Go buy that frog rod and then be a frog man and throw your frog here in a few weeks, because it's going to be frogging time any day. Any day. Give it to us one time, Cannon. Cheers, boys. Cheers. We'll see y'all next time, and y'all know where. It's going to be right here on your Lakeford Guide.